Okay.
All right, Evona, we're not on the air, but we're recording now. So I'm so happy we can finally do this because I know it's been a while and I've been busy, you've been busy, and I'm sure a lot of stuff has happened in your world since we spoke, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm stoked to be here and chat.
Good, good, good. And I appreciate, I have to thank Tina again for introducing us. And we want to get into, what Gifting Made is and what you're doing and the service that you're bringing to all these business owners, because it really was kind of like a journey that you went on to come to create the service. But maybe we go back, because I've read your bio, but nobody else has. So let's go back to when you got started and things you've been doing all your life, because you kind of have been a serial entrepreneur for most of your life, right?
Yes, I before I even knew the term entrepreneur and business owner, I've wanted to be a business owner for basically my entire life. I can remember in second grade having my first business idea and trying to enlist classmates to help me make it happen. So
Right.
I started working basically as soon as I possibly could. So yeah, absolutely always wanted to be a business owner. How I got here,
Yeah.
I've had one and only real job, quote unquote. And that's when I was managing a co-working space. And that's when I didn't know at the time, but I was really finding and realizing my superpower for relationships and connecting people and all the nuances that
Sure.
go into connecting folks.
Now, did you
And
start that space or you just worked for them or?
well, this was back when co-working spaces didn't exist.
Right. It
And
was very
the
new. It was a
two
unique thing.
very new. In fact, we would actually have conversations of how to define co-working to communicate it to people.
And
So
this was not out by where you are now, right? Wasn't this in Massachusetts, you said?
this was in Boston.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. Yep. So classic co-founding, co-working story. Two founders have a space and they put a ad listing on Craigslist for what sounded like a job for a check-in girl at a gym. In fact, I think that's what they said in the ad. And there were no jobs. This was 2018. 2008. I had just
Oh,
graduated
yeah.
college.
Everything crashed.
Here I thought I was going to get a great job and start my career. And I'm looking at an ad that says, be like the check-in girl at a gym.
You're like, that's why I went to college, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It turned out to be the best job ever. The two co-founders, they had their own businesses and they were like, here, Ivana, here's the concept of co-working. Can you make it happen? What can you do? Can you build a community? And so I got to be kind of an entrepreneur within that job. And
Because you not
so,
only managed it, but you had to do the business development and find the people and fill the
oh,
space and bring the tenants
everything.
in. Okay. Because they
Oh,
wanted to run their
absolutely everything.
businesses, right?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I did the books for a while, business development, sales, tours. I planned all the events. How do you keep a community engaged?
Right.
Absolutely every aspect of the business.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Good. So that was your first, even though you did those little business, that was your first real exposure to the business. Okay. Good.
absolutely. Yeah. So basically what happened is all this time I had thought, you need a big idea. I kept kind of waiting for what's my $1 million idea so I can finally be a business owner, finally be an entrepreneur. And what I realized working alongside, 20, 30, 40, 50 other business owners and entrepreneurs within the co-working space, I realized they were all like me.
Right.
They were all normal people. They had ideas, they executed, they got to be creative, and sort of entrepreneurship and business owner, the concept, we were now on the same playing field
Yeah.
for me in my head.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what, I can do it. I don't need to wait for
No,
anyone to
most of them are not these big ideas that change the world. They're solid concepts. They work their plan and they grow their business. It's not, like they get very few people change the world like Amazon or something like that. It just doesn't happen that way.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I learned that it's very, very normal and to be expected that you pivot that idea, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times
As you
until
learn,
you
right.
get. Mhm.
Run into problems, the economy changes, something doesn't work. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I gave my job a 9-month notice, which is
That's
a bit
nice.
excessive. And I booked a one-way ticket to Spain because I figured, you know what, two things I want to do in life. I want to be a business owner and I want to travel the world. So let's just get both out of the way together. Let's just do this all in.
Okay.
And I made a list of all the things that someone could potentially pay me for. At the time, social media management was really big.
Okay.
So that was on my list. Teaching English as a second language. I mean, I went down to anything and everything. And I landed on graphic design,
Okay.
which was my very first, freelance solo entrepreneur path.
Was that your
And
major in college? Design and marketing? No.
zero experience.
Sure, that's a good idea. Why don't we just do that? I mean, we got no experience, and who needs experience anyway? That shouldn't hold you back, and it obviously didn't. So,
well, yeah, I knew that I was I was artsy. I was a creative.
Okay, right.
I could make it happen. And so YouTube is great. You can learn absolutely anything on YouTube. I was on lynda.com learning how to use Adobe. And I basically let my entire network know that I was an infographic designer, because you can find a graphic designer anywhere, right? You throw a rock and you're hitting a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So I knew I needed to stand out, and infographics were really, really hot in how businesses marketed themselves at the time. And so I was like, great, I'm an infographic designer.
So what were infographics at the time?
So infographics, long form visual, where you want to tell a story, top 10 reasons your business isn't making the money that you want it to make. And then, maybe the business that's creating that infographic is a coaching business, for example, right? So they it's basically like taking a white paper and distilling it down to a really fun to read and consume piece of art. And they would use that as lead magnets, and social media, things to share on social media.
So is it like a one-page thing on Pinterest, or is it kind of like an ebook, but more graphically based?
It's one long graphic.
Okay.
Yep. So my clients would write whatever they wanted in the infographic, and then I would take that content and figure out how to draw it and how to create it into a fun to read visual, basically.
Okay, right. And then they could put it on a board on Pinterest, or put it on LinkedIn, or put it on Facebook and all that, Instagram.
Exactly. On their
Makes sense.
website. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I knew what it was. I just didn't know what it was called. So that's good. I learned something today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I got my start in design. And that was a lot of fun. And I have just been so lucky to work with incredible brands. Google.
Now, you were in Spain at this time?
Oh yeah, Spain. I was traveling to Italy, Croatia.
It was all Europe for the most part. You were not in the United States.
Nope. No.
Okay.
I was for 9 months. I was traveling, and I was working with clients in the US the whole time. So for me, remote working has been the most normal thing.
Okay. So you wanted to travel, but it wasn't like you went to Europe and you said, oh, I'm going to find European clients. You had the connections here. So you wanted to work with people, and you did it like they didn't know where you were. You could have been in a closet somewhere, right?
Anywhere. Yeah. To make the story even better, no experience in design, just a pure belief that I could make it happen, and $3,000 to my name. That's it. That's what I was working with.
Okay. Well, I mean, sometimes, what you don't know is it's if you just blindly believe it, it works, Now, how did you make, I remember you just started to say, and it was also in your bio, you reached some pretty big name companies. Mm-hmm. How did you do that?
It all started by, which is funny, now I'm connecting the dots and what I do in Gifting Made. It all started by tapping into my existing network. Right. That first email that I sent out, I literally made a list of everybody that I knew, because I knew that they already loved, trusted, and liked me.
Yeah.
And so I knew that they would be invested in supporting me. These are relationships I had built over all these years.
Right.
So I let them know that I was traveling and that I was starting to become a graphic designer. And from that one email, a few people reached out and were like, oh, okay, I want an infographic for my business. And so that's how I started growing my portfolio. And then, sometimes being so naive and just wanting to make things happen, like you said, is the best way to go. So once I started traveling, I worked a pretty normal work week. And by normal, I mean a normal entrepreneur work week, which is like 12 hours a day.
Right. Exactly.
So I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn, updating my profile, putting examples of what I can do. I made sure to specifically write that I was an infographic designer. I think I may have been blogging. I had a website. I just kept reaching out to people, and one person would bite and another person would bite. And then I got just emails and messages through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so I got contacted by a company that I started working with. And that company, this is how cool relationships are. The person I worked with within that company, when they changed roles and went into a different business, they brought me in to work with their team.
Right.
And then that business was bought by Salesforce, which is
Oh,
like,
yeah, they're a big company.
right?
Yeah.
So of course they brought me in as well. And I absolutely love working with them and the people. And Google, that was another just email that I had received. I just started getting contacted by people. I'm not sure how or why, there wasn't really
Well, I think you found a niche that made it like, okay, somebody's working with a graphic designer. That's fine. We don't have to get rid of them, but we could still work with Evona because she does this. And it was at a time where it wasn't as crazy as it is now,
Yeah. And one of the things I actually realized, and I'll be very, very honest about this to anyone and everyone, I'm not the best graphic designer out there in the whole entire world. There are people that go to school and have, much more talent than I do. However, what I do really well is I'm very responsive. I communicate. I follow through on all my deadlines. And if for any reason I cannot, I will communicate that well ahead of time and let my client know, so I'm not hard to get. I'm not hard.
And a lot of people don't do that well. The biggest complaint about attorneys is they don't get back to their clients. And that's not to you and I, that doesn't seem like, it just seems intuitive, but a lot of people, even with the skills they have, they can't maintain a relationship. I also wanted to point out something though that you said, which I think is really important. I think people really overlook, and maybe they're shy about it or whatever, the value of the relationships that they have. They're like, well, I don't know anybody. Well, of course you do. You probably know a few hundred people you're not thinking about, and they each know a few hundred people. And if you multiply that out several times, it's 50, 60, 70,000 people, something like that. And if they're doing something and they're committed to it and they want to be successful, they have that, they can tap into that. And that's always the best, in my opinion, at least the best place to start, and you have an example of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it came down to what I started to realize is I'm really easy to work with, and people love.
And you're referable because of that. You're going to embarrass somebody. You're going to do a good job. They're going to call me and say, Mitch, I'm so glad you introduced Evona to us, as opposed to the opposite. Some people, right, where you're just like, they're really good at what they do, but I don't know, it'd be a nightmare if I sent them to this person. I'd never hear the end of it. And that's unfortunate for them. Yeah.
Well, and you make a really good point, because when it comes to relationships, number one, your network, of course, hundreds of people, right? And you never know who they know. Right.
And
so,
they know people, right? And there's nobody on planet Earth who doesn't know people. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the level of depth and how strong that relationship is really important, because we all know people that there are certain relationships that we really protect. We're not just going to introduce them to anybody out there,
right? Because
that relationship, if we do make a bad introduction, that reflects poorly on us.
Yeah.
So that depth of relationship is really important that you have with someone if you want them to actually introduce you to the people that they are really protective over, because those are the key people that, could be amazing introductions, your next best, most amazing client ever. Right. So relationships in this way are really fascinating, which is the entire foundation of what Gifting Made does.
Well, that's the thing. Like I see it all leading up to.
Yeah.
Because it was like not an epiphany overnight, but you're seeing these things in action, relationships, keeping in touch with people. I read a book years ago. I don't know if I told you, Referral of a Lifetime. It's a Ken Blanchard, like it's a parable, but it's a story about this woman who's, like you said, struggling with her business and she can't get ahead. And maybe she was in real estate or something. And she goes through this not adventure, this journey, right? Meeting different people. And one of the people talked about building your, a keep in touch list, reaching out to people that you haven't spoke to for a while and kind of apologize and say, hey, I know we have an Evona. I haven't been good at keeping in touch, but I'm not going to let that happen again. There's a gifting section, a woman that she meets that rewards their clients and acknowledges their clients. And I was like, well, this is so stupid that how come I never did this, And now I build a whole different kind of system. But I think you recognize that people aren't doing it. That's the problem, right? It's not easy for them. It's difficult, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
it's not just in business, it's in your
life,
business and your
right?
life, those relationships they're all intertwined. They can be intertwined if you recognize that,
I heard somebody say yesterday, I think it was on a CLE or something, but she's deals with trauma, all the stuff you're dealing with now. There is no work-life balance. Like there's no separation between work and life. It's just life.
Mm-hmm.
It just had that day you happen to be at work and on Saturday you're at home. And so to say that you need to balance these things is a farce. It's all part of the same, pie.
Yeah. Well, especially when it comes to your relationships, right?
Yeah.
You have, high school friends or college friends. And yes, when you met them, those were all very personal, your friends.
Right.
But now they're grown up, they're working at companies.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, but let's go back. I don't want to jump ahead too far. So you're in Europe. I guess you did that for how long?
I did that for 9 months.
Okay, so you really got to travel and see things and live different cities and countries.
And realize that while I really thought I was born to be a digital nomad, I wasn't.
Yeah, like after 9 months, it's like, oh God, I got to find out. Like, I don't want to wake up every morning wondering which direction the bathroom is because I'm in a different place.
Yeah, it just, I realized that having a foundation and having a home base, I really never knew that it was really important to me. It's what I needed to be sane.
Yeah.
And
I think
I lost my sanity a little bit.
Well, I think I know some people that don't need that, but I think most of us need some general routine in our life, some stability, because it gives us comfort knowing that they're walking down the same street every day. And, you can go out in the world. Look, I've been on vacation too. 2 weeks on vacation. I want to kill myself. I want to be home, back to the things that I'm comfortable with, driving in my car, going to work. I know a couple of people that are real nomads and they don't need any of that stuff, but that's not most of us. We're just human beings. That's the way we operate. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's a good experience. You had that all under your belt now. You saw the world. I'm sure it gave you a different perspective on everything that's going on, right? And what did you do? You had a laptop with you and you were just plugging in wherever you could go?
A laptop and a backpack. I usually stayed in any one city for about a month. Okay. And so I actually worked at co-working spaces all across Europe.
Because it was more common over there than it was here?
They were just, they were popping up everywhere. And I'm actually still friends and have since seen and visited and they visited me, the people that I met through the co-working spaces, which is kind of insane.
Right. And since then it's become even easier to stay in touch. Mm-hmm. We met people on our honeymoon in Italy that were, we'd write letters, whatever. But now with Facebook and this and that, we follow their whole family. We know their kids. And when I was young, I had friends in Israel when I was young. You'd write a letter, take 2 weeks to get there. Then the mailman delivered. Then they'd write it back. It'd be like a month before you hear back from them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I hear stories too. Kind of going back, because I immigrated here from Poland and my mom was here for 2 years. Setting up a life for us. And I didn't know this till much later, but apparently you had to actually schedule phone calls with the phone company.
Yes. Israel was the same way. Yeah. They would call you back and say, okay, we have such and such on the line. It was a big deal. Yeah, definitely. This was when you were really little, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I remember that because it was hard to get in touch with people. Not now everybody's walking down the streets of Prague with a cell phone and you just call them.
It's true. But you know what else is true? Everything is so digital these days.
Yeah.
That if you rewind the clock in what you're doing, it actually just blows people away. A handwritten note. I actually have two.
Right. They don't get it. You don't get too much mail anymore. Right. Yeah.
I have two, these are going out today. They're the two phone calls that I had this morning.
Yeah.
Because when's the last time you had a phone call with somebody and you received a handwritten card just saying thank you,
Yeah.
really
Okay. I better write
appreciate
that
connecting
down.
with
Let's see. I'm putting this out there. I got to write written notes to people. Okay.
you.
Because now
It's a
they'll
novelty,
be on the
right?
podcast. And wait, I heard you talking to Evona. You didn't send me anything. So I better write that down. 'Cause I
Yeah,
have
the
gotten
trick,
different guests.
the trick to it, I'll give you a hot tip. So when you do your calendar bookings, I add in a space there for people to add their mailing address. And so I have the phone call, pull up their mailing address, write the note, and send it out. Takes
Oh, that's good. I think I can add
5,
that
10
right into
minutes,
the,
but
yeah, good. All right. I'll
make
look into
someone feel
that.
really special.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's really the whole concept of well, the whole gifting industry, but the concept of making it easy for people to do these kinds of things,
Yeah.
in terms of, now, have you been back to Poland?
Oh yeah.
You go there when you were there?
Yeah, I used to go back as a kid for the whole summer. I've recently realized that was because for my mom, that was the best childcare. She could just send me back to my grandma's house.
She would stay here and then she would send you back to your grandparents?
Yeah, she was working full time, so we didn't.
Yeah, no
we didn't
school,
grow
so
up.
right.
Yeah, yeah. And then after I started traveling, so I did my big travel in 2013, and basically every year after that, because I was now so digital and all I needed was a laptop, I had no office, quote unquote real job to go into and show up for 9 to 5. I started going back year after year for a month. And so
Nice.
last year, 2020 was the first year I didn't go back, but I'm planning on going back this year in September.
You'll be able to go in September, you think?
I think so. My mom's planning a trip, and so I think I'm going to, it's still kind of, we'll see. We'll see.
See how it develops, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 2013 was the big trip, right?
Yeah.
And then you came back, and then what was the first thing you do? You're like, thank God I'm home and I can have clean underwear.
Well, the other thing that happened while I was traveling.
By the way, for people listening, she did wash when she was on her trip. So yeah.
Yeah. I also, in the meantime, so here's what I realized about graphic design. I did not want to, I really enjoyed it and I loved so many aspects of it, but it was a real time for money trade, right? If I wasn't actively designing, I wasn't making money. And so it took a lot of time. Now, granted, you could build out, and have an entire staff and delegate, and all of that, but I just didn't want to do that.
How did you charge? Was it by the hour? You were charging for your time, or was it a flat fee?
Infographics were a flat fee, and then anything, because I got really clear on what that process required.
Right. So you could figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would always say, unlimited edits. You can have any amount of changes that you want, because I started to notice it ends up being more standardized no matter who I work with.
Right.
And for the person who needed the, 10 extra hours of editing, it all evened out, came out in the wash, because there's another client who required 0 edits, right? So
because ultimately they want to get the thing out there. They're not going to keep editing. It doesn't help them.
Mm-hmm.
They're only going to do it so much, right? Sure. Okay.
Yeah. And, and the other thing is graphic designers will be like, you get 2-3 rounds of edits. That's it. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. Well, what if I want more? So again, how easy are you to work with? Okay. So while I was traveling, I also had I consider this my first business idea. I was vegan at the time, and being vegan in Europe in 2013 was the most difficult thing on the planet.
Because it was all meat all over the whole country,
and
continent.
Veganism just hadn't hit mainstream.
Right.
So I was like, okay, you know what? I am going to start. First, I thought I was going to start a vegan cookie company. I kind of started thinking about how that could happen.
No eggs or whatever in the cookies.
Yeah, and it would just be like a mix that you could make at home really easily, because I also liked being in the kitchen. But then that morphed into, what? I'm sure other people have dietary restrictions and preferences like I do. And there are already companies making cookies and chocolates and, sauces.
Yeah, gluten-free things, right?
These small businesses And I was like, I'd love to support, empower, and help these small businesses that already exist reach their target customer. And so I came up with the idea to have an artisan marketplace for all those things, all the artisan food out there, and that you could filter and search by gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, vegetarian. I consider that entire business my half-priced MBA. It's what I always tell people,
Nice.
because I think at the end of the day, I think I spent like $50,000 all from, the graphic design income. And I just made every mistake that you could possibly make. The biggest mistake I made was I spent a year building something to be perfect and beautiful. I mean, you can't believe how many comments I got at how beautiful the website was, but it didn't work. Nobody was buying it. The business model wasn't good. The revenue model was terrible.
Right.
And
so
beautiful. What?
It looked beautiful.
Exactly. And that's really all it was.
Right.
So I learned all the lessons the hard way. And even though I knew for years leading up to this in the startup ecosystem in Boston, I kept hearing MVP, build your MVP, get it out there, get client feedback, get customer feedback, see what's working with, and I was like, no. I know what's going to work.
Right.
I just need to build it, and I need it to be perfect. And then all the customers will come and I'll be a millionaire.
Right. Exactly. That's the thing. You got to test. And don't ever believe that what you think the customer, it'll never be accurate. What you like and what you think they like, it might be a little bit accurate sometimes, but yeah.
Exactly.
The best people in the world to test everything, right?
Yeah. So I did no customer interviews. I just did not have a product market fit. And I worked on that business for 3.5 years. And it took me about 6 months to mentally process the idea of letting it go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's always a difficult part of it. I did that with my law firm too. It takes a while to just say, oh, you got to go through this process where you get to the end of your rope and you're just like, I'm walking away. It's not working, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. It was very hard.
It's hard, but good learning experience, right? I mean, you learned a ton.
No, I mean, literally half-priced MBA. I got a great deal.
Yeah, you can't trade that. I mean, because you are where you are, right? So you change the past and you're not, that's how I look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So from there, what happened was I started looking at I made a lot of amazing partnerships and built relationships with a lot of artisan makers from across the country. And one day
the Etsy type of like people, right?
Etsy, but also just small businesses, that are at the fancy food trade show,
right.
The makers themselves. They may be selling on Etsy, but typically they're selling at farmers markets. They've got their website, they're in stores locally, and they're on that same path of how do we grow, how do we increase distribution. Right. And I wanted to really support them and help them with that distribution, but I had a business that could not do that. And one day I was looking at the various websites of the different partners that I had, and I noticed that they had a section of their website for weddings and events, favors specifically. And then I saw it again and again and again. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So I could actually help these makers more if I positioned my sales to weddings and events, because I could get the makers larger orders. That would be better for them. That would be better for me. And, I just could be of more value to the partners that I had. And that was really important to me. I felt terrible sending a maker an order, for one sauce of one bottle of barbecue sauce.
Right. And you're on the internet, there's 40 billion people out there and you got one bottle of sauce.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I was like, but if I could send them an order for 200 brownies, I think they would actually appreciate that.
They definitely would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the first pivot to gourmet wedding gifts. And that was, I launched that company in gosh, I don't even remember, 2016.
So you were the kind of the middle person, right? You're saying, okay, wedding events, wedding planners, whatever. I have this stable in relationships of people who do artisan things, unique things, and we can get them for your event. You can have these special brownies, which you can only get in the North Woods of Oregon at your event in wherever.
Exactly.
Okay, it sounds like a good concept to me.
Exactly. It sounded like a great concept to me as well. And what I thought was an added value to everyone is if a maker that I worked with did not do favors, or they did, but they're, I don't know, the stickers that they put on things, they just lacked the graphics or the
You want to make them
customization.
look, sure. You want to jazz them up the level of their quality. It just looks like a richer type of a product, right?
Yeah. I jumped in on the design side. So I actually helped tie those pieces together. So I'd have the order, I'd work with the customer on their personalization. I would create, the stickers or the tags or whatever was going to go on the product. And then I would ship that out to the maker so that they could put it on the product and ship it to the customer. So I sort of created that solution so that the maker, didn't, wasn't like, well, we can't do this because we don't want to make stickers,
Right. You took that off their plate.
Exactly.
And you made them more reliant on you because now you're the one producing the stickers, and then somebody else comes to them and you go, yeah, but Evona's doing all of our stickers and she's doing our packaging and she's got it's like makes a very sticky relationship. It's smart.
Right. And the maker did not have to go back and forth with the actual wedding couple, for example. They didn't have to go, well, what color ribbon do you want? Well, what design? Well, what's the font? Well, there's a misspelling. Yeah, all of it, all the back and forth, right? So they just get the benefit of the order, all the final details, and they just fulfill. Super easy.
Nice. Because that's the problem, right? A person's good at making brownies. You use that as an example, right? They're really good at making brownies. They go, they rent a store, they open the store, they get the cases, they get the brownies in it. Nothing happens after that. They put an ad in the local paper. They do one of the coupon books. I mean, they're not really good at that part of the business, developing concepts and marketing and making connections.
Exactly.
Very common.
Yeah. And they're typically, there's the B2C channel, but then there's the B2B channel where they're going wholesale, so it's just, they're
larger
really
orders, right?
thin.
Wholesale, but larger quantity.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're spread thin, to say the least, because they're small businesses.
Okay.
Typically.
Now the business concept you have now, this is the early stages of it, right? Do you even have the name at this point?
No. So Gourmet Wedding Gifts, that was the pivot from Undiscovered Kitchen, and so that business.
That was the name of the online artisan community was called Undiscovered Kitchen. That's a good name. Actually.
Yes. It's brilliant, right?
Yeah,
I know.
Great name. It's like Undiscovered Kitchen. I want to know about that. I want to know what's in that kitchen. Right. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
You're definitely a branding and marketing person.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Yeah. So pivoted to Gourmet Wedding Gifts, 2016, was working on that. And I had always been hiding behind the computer. I mean, in graphic design, right? I'm hiding behind the computer. I never met anybody in person. Also I couldn't because I was halfway across the world.
Right. There's no Zoom.
There's no, at the time, no Zoom. In fact, even the idea would have been terrifying to me.
Right. And I don't think the infrastructure was there to even do these kind of calls like they are. Yeah.
Right. So I was in San Diego. I had Gourmet Wedding Gifts. And I was like, you know what, Evona, here's the other thing you learn, in the startup ecosystem and, from successful business owners, they tell you, start within your own backyard first. Right. And all my businesses up to that point, they were nationwide. And from the entrepreneur brain, you're like, well, why would I focus on a town if I could have the whole country?
Right. Well, I do business here when we can do business 1,000 miles away.
Everywhere.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just test this concept that I've heard said over and over and over again.
Well, if you're a brewery or you're a winery, you're not selling wine from Napa Valley. You're going to go local first. You're going to get people to try it and test it and drink your beer. And then some people will pick it up and other people distribute it. Yeah.
Build up a fan base, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this out. And what I wanted to do, or the next step for me, was I looked up and connected with some local networking organizations specifically for wedding professionals.
Okay, good idea.
And I found a couple of great organizations. I joined. We would meet monthly. I started making really great connections and relationships with wedding photographers and wedding planners and hotel venues, you name it, right? And so my idea was, if I could connect to the people that the couples talk to first, they could refer me as the person to contact for their wedding favors. So,
okay.
But I will.
That was 2016, 2017, right around there?
Yeah, 2017, 2018, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, on the surface, it all sounds really great. Here are the couple of problems I had with that business. Number one, artisan food in general is not cheap.
Right.
It's
because they're fresh ingredients. Right. Handcrafted. Sure.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the problem with that is that wedding couples, when it comes to favors, it's the absolute last thing that they care about.
Right.
And they want to spend next to nothing.
Because they got no money left. They've spent
blown through their budget.
Else. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Right. Unless you're Oprah Winfrey's kids, which you don't have any, but
and I never really, I had thought about just tapping into the luxury market where people spend exorbitant amount of money on wedding favors. And I just didn't know how.
Yeah, but that's, it's a small market. It's a different, like Ellen Weldon, right? She does those invitations and for the stars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess if you fell into it, you would have, but to actually spend all your marketing dollars on it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly. Right. So here I was, I thought I had a pretty good plan, but ultimately, again, the product market fit wasn't there. And what happened next was magical, and it's what led me to Gifting Made. I was networking within the community of other wedding professionals, and I had a gifting business. And so when I would meet people, they would frequently ask me, oh, well, Evona, you do gifts. Can you help me with gifts for my clients and the gifts for my referral partners? Because in the case of a wedding planner, they want to gift the hotels and venues that they work with,
right?
Because they want to stay top of mind for when couples come to the venue and they ask, hey, do you know any wedding planners? They want to be top of mind.
They just heard from you yesterday.
Exactly.
Realtors are big on this too. They send out gifts to all their contacts and everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I started hearing this more and more, and then a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, this is it. This is my next natural pivot. And what I realized is it would sort of bring everything that I enjoyed and cared about together. Working B2C, wedding couples, they needed me for, I don't know, a couple of days a week, depending on how long their design took.
Right.
But after that, they didn't need me. And what I loved about working with my graphic design clients is I got to work with them for years and years and years.
Right. It's a regular ongoing relationship.
Yeah. And I love relationships. And so that fulfilled me personally. And so the idea of working with businesses on gifting, I knew that those client relationships would naturally be long lasting, right? Because if they enjoyed working with me, why wouldn't they continue working with me for years and years and years?
Right. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep doing business, so they're not going to.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I loved the idea of gifting and product adding value and really helping businesses grow, because I got that,
right. Well, that's what you did before, was helping people develop business. That was the infographics were really all about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Goes back to your roots.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm invested in, it just makes me happy to do something that's actually adding value to others' business. you know,
Yeah.
I don't like to be a check the box kind of thing, a throwaway. I want to add value. So I saw all of those things that were missing from my work thus far, both with Undiscovered Kitchen and with Gourmet Wedding Gifts. And so I was like, okay, this is the natural next step for me. And I knew that it totally, it went well outside the bounds of weddings, and working with wedding professionals. And so
Right.
that's why I started it as a new entity, Gifting Made, because the opportunity was really so much larger than just weddings.
Yeah. Anybody who
And
wants to appreciate their clients and stay in touch with people which is everybody, by the way, but you got to be a little
exactly,
targeted marketing.
it is everybody. I know,
Right.
that's the problem.
So you had the artisans, which that was fine for the gift. So how did you start to make that transition to this company?
So, I had already, execution for me, I don't know, it's just built in. Like,
No, it seems to be
it's
no
no
problem for you.
problem.
Yeah.
You, you buy a domain, you build a
Right.
website,
Take no
right?
prisoners. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And by then I knew that you just need to get it out there. There is no year or month.
Right. I'm going to
of
wait
building
and
anything.
build it up. Right. Because you've been through this already. That's why you're not. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like why wait 6 months? We could do it now. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I ended up building the actual, I mean, there was a lot of time sort of really spent thinking about, okay, well, how do I want to do this? But
Right.
once
Mechanically, like what are the mechanics of running the business and connecting and getting the get? Yeah, of course. But that
exactly.
you'd learn over time.
Yeah. But once I kind of knew what I wanted to do, I built the website in a weekend. And I launched so here we
Now,
are,
are you a
right?
programmer? Like, can you program your own websites or did you have to get
Nope.
somebody?
I
How'd you
just
do it?
used Shopify at the time.
Just did it that way. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
It's been
And
rebuilt since, I'm sure, many times.
it's
Right?
been rebuilt since. I mean, so here's the thing. The business that I launched in the beginning and the business I have now could not be any different from each other. They're
Okay.
just completely different businesses.
Okay.
Because 2000 and when was this? 2018 Evona, when she thought of business gifting, she thought cute things in boxes, which is what most people think business gifting is. Throw some cute things in a box and you send that to your client.
Right.
And now
Right.
it's a very different story. So what happened was I launched what I refer to as my cute things in boxes business gifting website. You could go online, you could buy the gift boxes, we would fulfill. And
did they have my
there you
logo
go.
on it at the time or no? Not at the time.
Nothing with logos, but I did end up after some time, I ended up getting into the logo space and creating products with logos on it, in the promo item
Corporate
world,
promotions,
right?
right?
So that I could offer that as well. I basically, everything that the common person thinks of as business gifting, I did.
Right. Okay.
And I, for the first time ever, took the best advice that I was given, which is to do customer interviews. And so
Market
the
research.
one thing, what?
Market research.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. The thing that I had never done before, but was told to do hundreds of times.
Right. Right.
So I started calling and having conversations with business owners and the people that I wanted to be my clients. And I was having dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations and taking notes. And I realized that I kept hearing the same two things over and over and over again. And those two things were, number one, business owners and business professionals building their own book of business and using gifting in their business. They wanted their gifts to be meaningful. They wanted their gifts to be thoughtful because they genuinely wanted the people that they were gifting to feel really special.
Right.
Okay, so that was number one. Number two, they wanted their gifts to make their clients and their referral partners actually remember them. And I remember a conversation I had where the person described it as, I just want my gifts to stay around for a while.
Right. To make it useful for them, like they're going to use it as opposed to just throwing it in a drawer.
Well, exactly. And use it, but also just be there so that it would remind them of them. It would remind clients of them. Right. And after all these conversations, I was like, oh my God, as a business owner myself, I could not agree more with what they were saying.
Right. Makes sense.
And I did a double take to the business, and I was like, I can't deliver on either of those things.
Really?
Yeah. Cute things in boxes.
Right. That ain't going to do it.
It's not going to, a candle in a notebook. How special is that going to make someone
Right.
feel?
They can take it home and then they'll put it away and maybe they'll give it to their daughter or their son or whatever. Light the candle once. That'll be it.
Exactly.
Right.
And a box of chocolates, or a bottle of wine.
You got to use it up. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Right.
You're not going to keep the bottle on their shelf and look at it,
Well, exactly.
Right.
Right. So how's it going to keep them top of mind? It's not. And for me, that felt really disconnected. I didn't feel good about that. I
like you didn't feel like you were bringing enough value to them. Is that what really the shortcoming was? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew that at the end of the day, I wasn't adding value to their business in a really, I wasn't creating any amount of impact for them, really,
right.
at the end of the day.
Right. Now, before you did all this research and you called these people, you thought you were, right?
I thought I was.
You're doing great stuff. They're feeling good. They're all clicking their heels, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
I absolutely thought I was, because that's what business gifting was.
Right. Well, I think that's a good lesson for people that are listening, though, because if you don't ask your clients what, right, then you're just going to keep doing things. It's great. Why did our business drop off? What's going on? You would have known that ahead of time, right? People should do that more often.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I was kind of in this place where I was like, what do I do? I want to be valuable. I want to help businesses grow. I want to help business owners, actually create an impact with their business gifting. And right now I cannot do that. And so I went down the deep rabbit hole of the internet, the endless internet. And I was really searching for, how do I actually solve this problem that I know my clients have? And that is when I started really researching and understanding the concept of strategic gifting. And all that boils down to is just thinking about gifting in a really strategic way, just like you would think of any other form of marketing or whatever it is that you're doing inside of your business.
Right.
Are you targeting the right people? Are you sending things that make an impact? What about timing? I tell my clients, it's similar to working with a Facebook ads marketer, right? Do you have the right audience? Do you have the right messaging? Is the creative going to resonate with them? Are you running the ads at the ideal time? If you had a peek into all the plans that your competitors have for when to run that ads, you would be crazy to run the ads at the exact same time, right? So what do businesses do with business gifting? They all send their gifts when?
The same time.
Same time.
Christmas,
December. Exactly.
New Year's, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Christmas, right?
The biggest.
And that's their business gifting. Well, timing wise, they could send the best gift, but how impactful is it going to be if they're just another box on the doorstep?
Right. Good point. Plus, it doesn't get there on time. They got problems with shipping and availability and all that. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's all playing into the whole thing.
Absolutely. And I've I hear stories all the time where people will remember walking into an office and saying to their assistant, or to the office manager, hey, did we get a gift from Susan this year? And their response is, maybe, maybe
Right.
I think so. I'm not sure. I could double check, but it's like you literally don't remember because there are so many gifts showing up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So strategy is really everything. It's the who, what, when, where, how, and why.
It's basically building a program around your gifting as opposed to just having a list and sending shit out, like basically, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Well, you
Yeah.
should, I mean, look, you're spending money on people, right? You're spending money to keep these relationships alive. You should do it strategically with some thought and some planning as to why things go out. Like if, I even e-cards I schedule, I don't do them on regular holidays
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's stupid. Everybody
Exactly.
just deletes them on Christmas,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and the problem is that, you and I both know, right? As business owners, we're busy. We have our businesses to run,
Right.
right? And so my clients and the folks that I talk to, they tell me, look, I really want to do something with impact. I don't just want to send everything. I don't want to do what everyone else is doing, and it's very clear that the people that I work with, it just doesn't feel good to them, right? The options out there, they don't feel good.
Right.
And they're the types of people that they just don't want to do something for the sake of doing it. They want to be very intentional. And there's a disconnect between all the time that requires, and so they do want to do a really good job, but they don't have the time to do it.
So they
They
just
want it
grab
off of their
something
plate.
and go, here, just get this pen. This is fine. Just do that. And they're done, move on.
Yeah.
Right.
So they'll do some of that, but then they'll also just kind of be in this space of, well, let me figure it out and then I'll do something, which results in not doing anything. And they don't feel good about that either.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but they basically can hire you and your company. And
Exactly.
now they really don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Exactly. So
You run their
you want,
strategic programs, basically, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way it works basically is when I start working with a client, the nuts and bolts of the process is we literally help in every single step of the process from start to finish. So I would argue every other gifting company that you talk to, as strategic and personalized as they may be, the first thing they're going to say to you is send me a list of the people that you want to gift. Now, what's the challenge there, right? For the business owner, it's sitting down and figuring out, well, okay, who is it that I want to get?
Right.
Who is on that list?
Yeah. Most of them don't have their marketing list already, right?
Or they have a CRM of 1,000 people.
Right. Who they're not sending 1,000 gifts out. Right.
Exactly. That's really budget unfriendly.
Right. It's shotgun approach. You're just shooting everything out there. It's not doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. You want to appreciate the people that drive your business on a regular basis, your hot list or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's the first place they get stuck, is trying to figure out, okay, well, what is that list?
Right.
And so we've developed a relationship audit 6-step system.
Smart.
So I say to my clients, look, you don't need a list. In fact, I don't want you to come with a list. We're going to do this together and we're going to do this strategically. So I take my clients through the relationship audit process, and it is so cool for me to see the light bulbs that go off on their side, and just the clarity that they start to have about their network. It's a really cool process to go through. And so at the end of that process is where we actually have their list of people to start gifting to.
Okay.
The next step is to actually create their strategy. And so we're looking at, the next 12, 24 months. How do we want to foster? How do we want to nurture these relationships to truly strengthen them? And the example I always give is it's just like dating. If you go on one great date, chances are you're not going to get married, right? You need more. You need to continue dating. You need right. Now, granted, there are those people out there where
those
that's
end in
actually
divorce.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Not many of them last, but yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to treat relationship building like relationship building. It's human, it's the human process,
Right.
So So we developed this campaign
Yeah.
of gifts and other things to nurture those relationships in a really unique, genuine way that makes them feel really loved and appreciated. And so that's when I show clients, hey, here's exactly what we want to do. I'll lay it out for you. This is what it looks like. These are the gifts that we want to send, and this is why. And here's the timing that we want to use, and here's why.
Right.
I really, it's on our end, we're doing all the thinking and all the figuring out so that the client actually gets to have fun with gifting for the first time ever. It's no longer a chore and on the back burner, and then once we have the strategy set, we take care of all the logistics, personalizing, how do we make these things really, really special? So we do a lot of research. I say we're your chief gifting officer. We are in your business. We're a
like
business
that.
partner.
Yeah.
So we're really invested in understanding these people and what's important to them so that we can create gifts that actually have a lot of meaning to them.
Right. Well, you're basically running their and creating their customer and center of influence appreciation program. I mean, that's what it
100%.
is. And any of this stuff, by the way, if you're putting out content, if you do a podcast, if you send gifts out, you better be strategic and consistent about it. It's a long haul, right? They call you up, they get some gifts, they send them out one time. 6 months later, they go, it really didn't do a lot for us. And you're like, well, yeah, that's because you only did it once.
Yes.
You can't do it once.
Exactly.
Right.
And people know this because the two words that I hear in almost every single conversation that I have are that people want to be consistent.
Right.
And they want a system.
Yeah. No, because without systems, it doesn't work. I mean, I edit my podcast the same way every time because it was making me crazy trying to figure it out each time. You have to have a system. They couldn't do their list. So you created a system so they can do their list. People need systems. They're not too good just making things up on the fly because they will drop whatever it is that they started to, even if they're well-intended, right? We've all done it. They'll start out, they'll gung-ho, and then we'll get this list together. We'll send it out. I guarantee within 6 months, they're not doing what they were doing when they started.
Yeah.
And they get no results out of it.
Exactly. And so that's why the logistics, the management, you've got somebody for the next 2 years that is making it happen. You don't have to worry about it. It's happening. You're effectively, right? You're hiring someone. I'm not an e-commerce
Without a payroll.
Company, exactly. You're hiring Gifting Made to be responsible, to follow through, to keep you accountable, right? Because I keep my clients accountable as well.
Right.
At each gifting touch point, we're touching base with them and we're saying, hey, what is going on with these relationships? Because the next time we send a gift, we want to make it really meaningful, and the note itself, oh, I cannot tell you, the gift notes, so underrated. They are so important.
This is the note that goes in with the gift.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It is it's the entire context of the gift. If you're not really deliberate and intentional and you don't write that note with a lot of purpose and care, it has a big impact on how that gift is received and what impression you make on somebody. Imagine getting this amazing personalized gift, opening it up, and then finding a printed note that says, thanks for your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Versus you get the exact same gift, you open it up, you have a handwritten note in there, like a paragraph long, talking about, hey, I really enjoyed our phone call last week. I'm really glad that I'm excited for your family to go to Bali next month. It's been a long year. I can't wait for you guys to enjoy some time off. That level, it's a game changer.
Yeah, but how do you do that? Like, let's say I have 50 people on my list, right?
Yep.
How do you do that? I don't want to give away your secret, but I don't think I know enough about my top 25 or 30 people to do that.
And that's my favorite, actually. That is my favorite, because people say, Evona, to be honest, right, I haven't talked to this person in like, I don't know, a year, maybe. And I'm like, all right, okay, that's no problem. There are so many different ways to get to know something about the person. Whether it's we
So you're
talk
like
about,
researching the people, looking at
we
their
are active.
Instagram, checking on their Facebook page, seeing what they're doing in the world, their company.
That's
Uh,
part of it. That is
okay.
100% a part of it. And then, okay, well, let's talk about, what happened a year ago. Were
Right.
you guys working together? Did you meet at a conference? Let's say you met at a conference a year ago, and you haven't talked to that person that whole time. Okay. Well, so let's say, gosh, it's been a year since the conference. I can't believe it. Let's say you're right. So I'm literally like scripting the note for you right now. You
Right.
start with something like that, right? And then let's say the conference is coming up in the next 6 months. I've been meaning to reach out. I really hope we can connect this year. I see that the conference is in Austin. I'm going to go. I'm going to touch base with you. I'll give you a phone call. Let's catch up and see if we can grab coffee or go out to dinner when we're there.
So you have a bit
Right?
of a formula framework for these letters that you kind of follow depending on the data that you get and things that you discover.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other piece is really, over kind of, if we go back to the very beginning, I just have this, what I've realized is I have this built in, what I've now realized is kind of a superpower of the nuance of relationship building, so even if you haven't talked to somebody in a year, there is still a way to reach out to them in a
Oh,
really
there's no question
genuine
about
way.
it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, that book that I mentioned actually has a letter in there, if they call it not a confession, but basically, listen, if you're starting your business, right, and you want to announce to the 250 or 500 people that I'm sure all of which you haven't kept in touch with, right, the average person, you're going to want to put something in there that says, hey, Evona, I know you haven't heard from me in 3 years, but we're doing this, we're doing that, and I'm not going to lose touch again. And there's definitely always a tactful way of doing things. No question
Oh
about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Call yourself out. People
Right.
love people that are transparent. So call
Yeah.
yourself out.
Yeah.
I'm
I
really
did a bad
sorry.
job doing this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nothing wrong with
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then what's the action step,
Right.
right?
And
So what are you
and
going to tell
going
them?
forward, we're not going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to stay in touch or whatever it happens to be. Yeah.
Precisely. Precisely. And when you're talking one-on-one, what's that one-on-one message? I'm going to give you a call. Now, granted, you then have to give them a call.
Well, I mean, you're sending out the gift. So if you're not going to call these people, then don't send them a gift. What's the point? If you're setting up a
Exactly.
program where you're going to stay in touch with these people to build a relationship, it's not just to buy them things. I don't think you and
Exactly.
I are trying to get that across to people that say, "Oh, buy gifts for your best customers. They'll come back and do business with you." No, you have to still provide them value, still stay in touch with them, still show that you care about them, still give them ideas, still be their top of mind. It's not just the gift. You're part of a bigger program, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's, I am a gifting company shorthand, but my business is about helping you strengthen the relationships that you have that can help you actually grow your business.
Right. Because
And
nobody can
so,
just go to your website and buy stuff, right? You're not an
oh no,
e-commerce business, right? I think
no, no,
that's
no.
right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No,
So anybody listening, you can't go to Gifting Made and you're just going to buy stuff. It doesn't work that way. If
no.
you have a company and you have clients and people that you care about, you want to talk to Evona, you talk to her, and she's going to help you build a strategic program to never lose touch with the people that you want to do business with and care about. That's what they got to do. And there'll be links in the show notes for that too, but they're not buying things from you after this
Right.
episode. Right.
Right, right. No, totally. You're exactly right. And you're right when you say this is part of a bigger picture, right? So in addition to the gifts that we're sending, we're also sending cards at really unique times, and how do we make that card really special? I just sent out a, a gifting campaign, and we actually put photos on the cards of the people that we were gifting and their
Mhm.
family, making it really, when's the last time you got a card with your family
So
photo
like
on
each card is like customized.
it? Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And in addition to that, right, what are you doing between the gifting touch points to stay in touch? So we're reaching out to clients and we're saying, hey, a couple months from now, we've got a gifting touch point coming up.
Right.
Can you reach out to your list either by phone, text, or email and just check in with them? That's it. Don't ask for business. Don't talk about business. Just genuinely reach out to them.
Yeah. How
And so
you
that
doing?
is a
What's
part
up?
of our
How
process
can I
as
help
well.
you? Do you want to grab coffee? Yeah. Now,
Exactly.
do you work at all with their other marketing people to say, okay, well, you guys are posting stuff online, you're producing ebooks, you're doing stuff. Maybe this should be coordinated better because of the timing of this and the timing of that. Do you do that too?
No, we're typically working directly with the person. And so short answer is no.
There's no conflict where it's the bad timing because they're doing this on the marketing side. So you really want the gift to go out at a different time, or
Well, if that came up, that would come up during right, things can always sort of change, right? And any
right?
plan that you're planning ahead, it can absolutely change.
Yeah.
So if it were the case that, let's say we had a planned touch point, I don't know, in October, right? And the business decided to do something where, hey, I think we've got to shift some things around, then, hey, we're in service of you and
Right, of
your
course, but
relationship.
they have to
So we're
communicate
gonna
that with you. Because like
exactly.
maybe the timing would be weird because they just did something else. And then they're
Yeah.
like, that looks artificial. Yeah.
Well, or right, or what would more likely be to happen is we're checking in with them and they're saying, hey, we just did this thing. Okay, wonderful. Let's tie that into the note.
Right. Mention
That's
it.
going to make it extra relevant.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You don't need to
Yeah.
change it, just make it part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I love about your business is that you didn't say, okay, well, let's go into the corporate gifting business, because you buy stuff online all over the place. I mean,
Yeah.
you created a service and a hand holding business where you're going to go to people and say, listen, don't waste your money buying some trinkets that you're going to send out and make yourself crazy because you can't get them out and there's boxes all over your office and everything like that. And you'll do it one time and be like, I'm never doing this again. I'm sure there's people listening that have done that, right? You get all
Yep.
gung ho about something and then you never do it again. I remember one year my wife makes, you know what mulled wine is? Where you take wine
Yes.
and you put the spices in it, whatever. So we had this whole thing. We made like 30 bottles. We got the bottles, we made labels, we corked the things. I mean, the whole thing. It was so much work. We never did it again. And got rave reviews, by the way. Oh, that was great. Can we? Yeah, maybe we'll do it again. And never, it was just too much work. We're cooking the stuff in the pots. I had to pour it in, with the thing and then cork it and put the labels on and then deliver the stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you go out of business, just sending it to people.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a lot of work. Anything that you're really intentional about,
Right.
it's going to be a lot of work. I was just thinking
Well,
this
especially if you're not
morning.
geared up for it. I mean, you have a business that's geared up
Yeah.
to handle these things, and it's still a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Well, and just think about, sending one gift. You want to send one. Now, I never recommend the one-off, obviously, because of the one great date,
Right,
metaphor.
doesn't
But
really
let's
do it.
just say, for example, say you want to send one really meaningful gift.
Right.
Just mentally go through that process. All right, you're going to go online. You're going to Google for at least an hour, right? Minimum.
Right.
Okay. Then you find something. Well, now you've got to figure out, well, how do you make it really special? So maybe you research the person or you think back or, you look at the various design options. By that point, what usually happens is a little bit of analysis paralysis and you need to take a break because you're not exactly sure what to do. Right. But now you've spent, I don't know, 1 to 2 hours. This is for one gift. You're a business owner.
And if you
Your
want it to be
time is
personalized, they
money.
got to be shipped to your office and you got to be able to ship them. So you got packaging you want to put it in, and then how you personalize it, and you get it out, you got to do the labels, and your whole office shuts down.
Exactly. Go to the post office. I mean, you're taking what? It usually ends up being like, all right, let me run to the post office. You leave the office at 3. I mean, it's, and that's for one gift.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
A lot of
definitely, I can't say it's like, it's a need. People don't even think. Now, are there competitors in your business that do what you do? Meaning they take over the
Yeah.
whole program?
It's a great question. I feel really lucky because this is a space. There are, 1,000,001 competitors in the business gifting
Yeah,
space.
right.
Right. My clients don't want any of those. They don't.
And they're not doing what you're doing. They're not bringing the service and
Exactly.
handling. They don't want to do that. They just want to sell their stuff.
Exactly. So there are few really, if any, people doing this type of gifting.
Yeah.
And what I've realized more and more is even the people that are, strategy driven and have these same core beliefs and mission about gifting and how to impact business, there are still things that we do the level that we go to that you're not going to find, unless you literally hire someone in-house to do it for you.
Right.
The level of research. I just did a gifting campaign where I was looking at Instagram and Facebook and really trying to understand what's important to these people. I don't know a single other company that's going to do that.
Now, I think most of them are probably marketing companies. So you hire the marketing to run your marketing program, and some gifts are part of it. Like, you know what I mean? There's no specialty. There's no focus on it. They're only going to put so much time into it because they do other things. They're not really gifting experts. You've kind of made it a science. Right.
Well, and certainly, the piece to actually creating your gift recipient list, that's a whole process of its own.
Yeah, right.
Before you can even start gifting. And so I think that makes Gifting Made really unique, as well as we've developed a process to help people really audit their network and their relationships.
Right.
And I just
like
haven't
you said,
seen
they never get
else.
off the ground.
Yeah.
You've taken away the biggest roadblock that they run into.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I will tell you, from an entrepreneur, business owner learning perspective, that was something I learned as well, because even when I shifted the business to be more strategic and I started talking to potential clients, the sales conversation would stop at, well, let me put my
right. Let me get back to them. All right.
together.
Let me get the list together. I'll get back to you in 10 days. 10 days go by. They haven't done anything. 3 months go by. They still haven't done anything. Yeah.
Yep.
No, yeah, totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. Yeah.
So I knew I needed to fix that piece of it.
Okay. Well, this has been a great conversation. I think we might have broke the record in time. I do have one episode. My first episode was 2.5 hours. I had to break it into 2 episodes when I talked to my friend Jack, but this has been great. So how do people get in touch with you?
It's very simple. Giftingmade.com, giftingmade.com. My email address is Evona@giftingmade.com. Going back to my design roots, I'm very easy to find, contact. I'm responsive. I really care about the people.
You on social media? People can find you on LinkedIn. People can find you on all
LinkedIn as well. Yep.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn, and shortly we'll be participating actively on Instagram. That's where all the, it's where all the kids are.
Well, and plus you can show the stuff that you've put together. It's very visual what you do. So I would think, Instagram would be the place for you to be. But I thank you for your time. We'll put all those links in the show notes so people can easily get in touch with you. And I appreciate all the time you're spending on the mic and sharing your journey.
I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Evona.
I'm so grateful.
I appreciate it.
All right.